So you guys started a company at the height of the financial crisis. That's interesting. When a lot of people are probably running away, you guys, let's just dive in and start one.
Let me tell you, you guys will probably get a kick out of this story. I don't know if I've ever told this one before, but I took some time off in 2008 during the financial crisis. I just gotten divorced. I went to Hawaii to kind of regroup. Get a call from a broker friend of mine. Calls me up and says, got these guys. I think we should build a new mining company. And I'm like, man, people's mortgages are failing. Like, where are we going to raise this money? So we talked to the guys. They had some good ideas. One of the guys was Eric and his partner, who's since passed on. And we committed on the phone. We're like, okay, well, we can raise a couple $1 million for this, and we'll team up and go. I hung up the phone. I called him back and said, where are we going to get this money? In the end, we did. And here we are. But it was a bit of a gut check at that time when things were going sideways to raise speculative capital. There was concern in my voice when we said we were initially going to do it.
Hey everybody, this is Robert Keens of 𝙂𝙍𝙊𝙎.com. I am here today with a very special guest, Warwick from American Pacific Mining. Warwick, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Robert. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we originally talked to 𝙃𝙀𝙊𝙇𝘼, who's the president and director of American Pacific Mining at the 𝙃𝙀𝙍𝙊𝙎 Silver Symposium some months ago. And we got really interested in this project because we think it's going to be a high-grade gold silver project. You have some copper in there. You're in a couple of really good mining districts here in the United States. So we're very interested to have you on. Wanted to get a little bit of your background first before we go into the project. A little bit of your background, Warwick, and how you came to be the CEO and director of American Pacific.
Yeah, for sure. I've been in the business since 1999. It's been a great experience for the most part. I got to live through a super cycle, which was a lot of fun. Launched my first company during that super cycle. Saw some success with a couple of companies that I'd worked with before that. Met Eric in 2008. We hit it off. Actually, sorry, 2008, because we launched the first company in 2009. Kind of the yin to my yang. We're pretty different guys, but he's gone on to become one of my best friends and just a great guy to work with. His background, he was the head of exploration in the West New West for Newmont. So he was the guy telling Newmont which projects to pick up.
That's pretty good credentials.
It's pretty good credentials. And our personalities are a great fit. We work really well together. Really enjoy working with him. So that's sort of how this initially came to be. And then more recently, partnered with a couple of colleagues, and we merchant bank companies. We're sector agnostic. We all have, similar skill sets, but slightly different backgrounds. So get the opportunity to see a lot of different things from certainly from mining, but tech, biotech, et cetera. So it keeps us busy.
Yeah, it's good. So you guys started a company at the height of the financial crisis. That's interesting. When a lot of people are probably running away, you guys, let's just dive in and start one.
Let me tell you, you guys will probably get a kick out of this story. I don't know if I've ever told this one before, but I took some time off in 2008 during the financial crisis. I just gotten divorced. I went to Hawaii to kind of regroup. Get a call from a broker friend of mine. Calls me up and says, got these guys. I think we should build a new mining company. And I'm like, man, people's mortgages are failing. Like, where are we going to raise this money? So we talked to the guys. They had some good ideas. One of the guys was Eric and his partner, who's since passed on. And we committed on the phone. We're like, okay, well, we can raise a couple $1 million for this, and we'll team up and go. I hung up the phone. I called him back and said, where are we going to get this money? In the end, we did. And here we are. But it was a bit of a gut check at that time when things were going sideways to raise speculative capital. There was concern in my voice when we said we were initially going to do it.
Yeah, I can certainly imagine. It took a lot of courage, but it looks like you guys are up and running with this project. Before we get into the project, I want to talk about gold and silver a little bit. Gold and silver has kind of been sideways this year, right? We've talked a lot about it. People are a little bit frustrated. It's been sideways for almost a year and a half. We did see a good pop with the pandemic last year, but the markets haven't taken off. So what's your view in terms of gold and silver? Do you watch the gold and silver price? Do you follow the markets?
Yeah, I mean, daily, it's certainly, it's part of the job. And it's, obviously I have a high level of interest in what the metals are doing, because the metals can wag the tail for the companies at times, for sure, especially when you're in the junior space. Look, I lived through a super cycle. I lived through the boom of that and the excitement of that, and seeing the metals rise and seeing the stocks rise substantially against the metals. That was a lot of fun. I've also lived through the downturns as well.
Mhm.
You know, when I started in this, I can remember gold breaking 400, and that was a big deal. So I've
Yeah.
been around and kind of seen them, you know, ebb and flow as we go along. When we started in American Pacific, we started in March of 2018. We thought the timing was really good. So if anyone's listening to my timing, perhaps they should think twice. But you know, look, you're in a position now. You're in an inflationary environment. You're seeing, you know, the cost of goods go up, et cetera. You're seeing a real, what feels like toppy market and everything else. To me, gold and silver is where you want to be now. A big bubble
Mhm.
pop will hurt juniors, mid tiers, and producers as well. Um, but it sure feels like the metals are in a position where they should move.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just talking with 𝙒𝙀𝙇𝘍 this morning regarding gold, silver. He's very bullish on gold and silver right now because the rate hikes. So the Fed's talking about doing some rate hikes. They're talking about 3 to 4, you know, quarter percentage would put us up around a percent. It's not huge, you know, in the US, 1%. But anytime, you know, dating back to 1971, every single time we've been on a rate hike trend, or the central banks have decided to do rate hikes, gold's gone up. So that's very bullish for gold, I would think. I don't know. What is your view on sort of the monetary policy effect on gold?
Yeah, look, I think you're entirely right. If they do a rate hike, gold and silver are going to go up. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think that's
Mhm.
the I don't want to. Nothing in life is ever assured, but it is the very
Right.
likely scenario that is going to be the case. Here's the one thing I'll say about. I think there's a perception out there that, you know, rising gold prices and a, you know, and a bubble pop is great for gold stocks and what have you. I don't actually take that view. If you look back in
Mhm.
2008, so I'll give you a great example.
Mhm.
In 2008, I had been working on a company called Fortuna Silver. Did the investor relations for them as a young man. Um, it is, you know, started as a $10 million company. It's north
Mhm.
of $1 billion now, listed on New York. They did an incredible job
Mhm.
at driving that forward. In 2008, I forget what it started at, but let's call it was multi-dollar, and I think it got as low as 40 cents in 2008.
Mhm.
Just peeled right back because everybody goes to cash. Everybody panics. Everybody sells everything.
Right.
Now, it took a great bounce from there
Mhm.
and rode its way back to $7, $8 plus. Worked its way from there. But you know, this idea that, yeah, look, you know, gold and silver are going to rise and the stocks are going to do the same isn't always necessarily true within that quick space of time. Now, if you have a
Mhm.
longer term view, you can wait for those moments to, you know, load up on the stocks themselves. So that's part of my personal thinking going forward on the golden stock on gold and silver stocks. But the metals themselves in this environment, they should rise.
Yeah.
Can I
I
can I just add to that for 1 second? Because
Sure.
there's one thing on this that you know, I have internal discussions on all the time. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies,
Mhm.
they've worked in a way that I think it's taken some of the younger people out of the market for gold and silver,
Mhm.
whereas they're interested in buying and selling these off of their phone. It's 24 hours, it's 24/7, right? You can trade them on the weekends and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's really attracted a lot of people to that may have been interested in trading gold and silver before. I think that's one thing that's kind of, at least in my mind, is factored in. I don't know your thoughts on that, but
I agree with you. I think for a long time it was both cannabis and Bitcoin. I would say
yeah,
cannabis trade has cooled down quite a bit.
oh
I
yeah,
actually did a video of a town hall video for this on a gold and silver symposium, I guess a year or two ago. I was talking about cannabis and Bitcoin taking some of the attention away from the gold
hmm
and silver market. Looks like cannabis has cooled down just a little bit. Bitcoin,
yeah,
of course, is still there. We've seen its growth. And I do think people, you know, they want to trade on their phones. They want to get on this, and
yep,
it's easy. And I would say it's a lot easier to do a lot of trading on this. It's not gold and silver. There's not really good apps for gold and silver on here. You know, there are ways you could buy it electronically and store it, but the younger crowd's not quite as into that. I do, however, see a lot of interest in silver specifically, especially Wall
hmm
Street silver, the younger crowd getting into the silver trade space.
yeah,
And, you know, we know that we're running deficits. So talk about silver for a moment. The Silver Institute says we're going to need, you know, this year, 2021, or sorry, last year had 1 billion ounces of demand. This year it'd be 1.1 billion ounces, about 111 more ounces. we're not going to have that kind of production. There's not going to be enough silver coming out of the silver mines. And everybody I talk to says, yeah, look like we're going to see a lack of supply over the next few years, more demand than supply. So for a company like yours that has silver in the ground, how does that potentially affect how people view your company? Because you're going to be the supplier here in a couple of years, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I tend to agree with you on that. There are some very good silver juniors out there that are worth reviewing. I'll include American Pacific within that, both through the Tuscarora project, about 45 minutes outside of Elko, Nevada, and then Gooseberry, which is a past producing silver gold mine, which is about 45 minutes outside of Reno, Nevada. Rising silver prices help us. There's no doubt about it. It's a spotlight effect, right? People look at it and go, oh, they've got great high grade hits. Oh, it's silver, and silver's now past $50. You get the effect of that without a doubt, right? So yeah, certainly there's no doubt that helps us. I think one of the things that we've done well this year, I mean, if you look at the chart for American Pacific this year, it's done incredibly well against its peers. I think our market cap's gone up over 1,300% this year. What we've done a good job of is working with the likes of Wall Street Silver and what have you to make sure that guys like yourself, where we're doing these interviews and we're getting it out to a different audience, a younger audience as well, and try to capture into that imagination and tell that story, and then on the back of it have exceptional projects that we're advancing forward. I think you have to be able to do that, and I do think some mining companies kind of stick to the norm of what their advertising ideas are without sort of branching out and having these conversations. I think you can pick up a lot by doing this, and I think we proved that in the past year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm just going to throw up on screen your performance this year, just so people know. I mean, this is not the normal when it comes to the mining sector.
No, it's been an exceptional year. I mean, without doubt, it's been an exceptional year for us. And it's nice. I mean, we're well cashed up. We got $16 million in cash. We've got great assets. We're partnered with Rio Tinto on the asset down in Montana, so we're free carried there. It's the second largest mining company in the world, so they've been fantastic partners. Obviously, they're looking for something big since it's Rio. And we've made sure to get out and let people know what we're up to, and so far so good.
So where did the genesis for American Pacific Mining start? Was it back in 2018 timeframe?
Yeah, I mean, we took it public in 2018, although we had been talking about it for some time. Eric and I we looked at Madison, which is the asset down in Montana, in 2016. We went underground there, and we really liked it. It was a group of guys that owned it reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to look at this?" Let's talk to Eric. We went down, took a look. When we were under there, one of the first things Eric said to me is, "This looks like Fortitude," where he was chief geo, and it's a skarn out of Nevada. We use that comparison now quite frequently. Anyways, another company bought it. We didn't get a chance to negotiate on it. They bought it before we got a chance. And they then in 2017, they drilled into the porphyry. That created a lot of excitement. April of 2019, they brought in Rio Tinto as a partner. And then 2 months later, they decided that they halted from trading and announced they were becoming a psychedelics company focused on medical mushrooms. So 2 months after bringing in Rio. So I called up their then CEO, who I didn't know, and explained and said, "Look, we've done the due diligence of the project. We know it well. We view obviously having Rio Tinto as a partner as a pretty big plus." So we cut a deal. We paid $2.4 million in stock to get the asset and the partnership with Rio. And for that, S&P Global Platts nominated us for Deal of the Year. We ended up being the runner-up to Cleveland Cliffs, which is they closed two $2 billion transactions, so they beat us out. But good company to be in for sure.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. So I wanted to bring up some of what investors always like to see is what resource do you have in the ground. That's sort of the prove it to me, right? So you just here and some of the results that you guys have had. Talk a little bit about the results that you guys are getting when you're going out and doing exploration.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we actually released results yesterday from the 2021 program. That and for a frame of reference, the partnerships with it's Kennecott, which is Rio Tinto, division of Rio Tinto, and the deal is Rio can spend up to $30 million US to earn 70% of the project. It's without getting into the geologic weeds too much. It's a high grade skarn at surface, and then there's a porphyry underneath, and both have the opportunity to be big. These drill holes that you're seeing on screen are actually the ones that Rio has drilled in the past 3 years. They're going into their 4th year of drilling. results we put out yesterday were from 2021, so for their third year of drilling. But they're hitting great grades. The highlight hole that they just hit was 6.5 meters of 14 grams, which is about half an ounce, including half a meter of 146 grams per ton gold and 1% copper. And the part that we liked about it best is it was 100 meters down dip from anything they'd hit before. So it extends the plunge down 100 meters, which just makes it an awful lot bigger. And then 55 meters to the west from any other intercept. So it was a successful drill campaign in our eyes, for sure.
So this news came out yesterday. Let's highlight that news for you.
Yeah, no,
we'll bring this on screen, talk about it, because whenever you have news like this, this is the type of thing that moves the market and people get interested in.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, if you scroll down to the map, that's the one there. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The hot red circle at the bottom there is is where that drill hole intersected the mineralization, and you can see up above where the other drill holes are. That's when the known mineralization is. So it's extended it pretty significantly. So now the question is, okay, do those two connect, or is this the start of a second skarn where they're kind of stacked on top of each other? Don't know the answer to that yet. We'll find out with more drilling, but either or is a good answer. So it's getting bigger, which is always what you want to see for sure in these types of assets.
Okay, so talk to me about your resource. How far are you in determining what resource you have? I know your exploration rights, you don't have the whole thing, but have you guys released your main resource estimate? Or are you planning on doing that soon? Yeah,
we'd like to. We're partnered with 𝙒𝙀𝙊𝙇𝘍, so 𝙒𝙀𝙊𝙇 gets to drive the exploration, the cadence on that news flow. So that's one of the things is with 𝙒𝙀𝙊𝙇 running that, we run the other two projects in Nevada, which allows us to push on our own timeframes. 𝙒𝙀𝙊𝙇 has been a tremendous partner to work with, which is one of the first things I should say. It's a concern at times from the corporate seat. When it's David and Goliath, we're clearly David, they're clearly Goliath. How's it going to work with news flow, et cetera? They've been fantastic to work with. They do great work, to no one's surprise, but their communication style and ability to work with us has been excellent. They haven't put out a resource yet. We look forward to them putting one out. To give you an idea of what we think, and this is from American Pacific's standpoint, it looks a lot like Fortitude in terms of size and scope. There is work to be done to get to that point, but Fortitude, in terms of footprint, this is higher grade, but you can start seeing it. And Fortitude, the skarn itself was 2.5 million ounces of gold, and then it vectored down to a porphyry, and the porphyry was 25 million ounces of gold and 3 billion pounds of copper. We're a ways from there, to be clear, but that's what we're looking for. That's where we want to get to. That's the big picture thinking. You're partnered with the second largest mining company in the world, so they're looking for something big. That's the prize for them.
Sure, absolutely. So what should investors expect the next quarter or two? What's your plan? Are you just going to continue exploring this and building out the resource?
We're going to be moving on 3 fronts. So we've got $16 million in cash, so we're really well funded. 𝙒𝙀𝙊 fits the bill. We don't have to match until they've spent up to $30 million US. So we're free carried. So they'll be working over at Madison. We're going to release their game plan once we get it at the end of this month. We are going to drill over at, we are completing drilling at 𝙂𝙊𝙇. We're drilling 15 holes up there. We're on hole 13 as we speak. And then we're moving a drill next week over to Tuscarora. Tuscarora is going to see a lot of exploration this year. We picked up some claims to the north that now make it a lot bigger. So it's about a 4,500 acre asset now. That's one that's going to become a really big part of the story this year. We'll spend about $5 million there this year. And probably a similar amount at 𝙂𝙊𝙇. We spent about $1.5 million now. We'll take a break, look at the results, and then go back. But both of those is where we're going to drive our own news flow. Both of those have the opportunity in our eyes to become multi-million ounce deposits. We focus on high-grade assets in the Western US that can be the desire of majors. See that with 𝙒𝙀𝙊𝙇. We believe these two can be as well. We're going to get out and push that this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. What other news do you have for us on American Pacific Mining? Anything you want to leave the viewers with?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're in an enviable position of being cashed up. We've got high grade assets. People like high grades. They like the Western US for sure. There's 2 other assets in the company. We're going to do technical reports on those and look to joint venture those out. We've been able to do that in the past. We'll be able to do that here. So we'll be moving on 5 fronts, 2 of which we'll be spending our own money on, and the other ones we'll be having others spend their money on and reaping the benefit on as well. So yeah, it's gonna be last year was a great breakout year. This will really be the build year, and there will be in particular Q1 there will be a significant amount of news flow that started yesterday. So here we go.
Sounds fun. Real quick on those 2 joint venture projects you mentioned, what's the benefit to your shareholders from doing those additional 2 projects?
Yeah, look, it's great. I mean, we in both cases we did good deal making in terms of getting those assets. So the one is an internal claim block to New Legacy. It's on the Cortez Trend. It's been drilled before by Barrick. They had great results. It's expensive drilling. It's deep, right? So we want to bring in a partner to spend that money. But in the same case as Rio, it'll be something along the lines of they'll be able to earn X%, we'll keep X%. So 70-30 in the case of Rio, we keep 30%. That 30% can become incredibly valuable, in particular when you're not spending your own money. So that works really well. If it's a newer company, we end up taking shares in that company as well. So if that company does well, we get both the benefit of the shares in their company and the benefit of the portion of the asset that we own. It's a model that can work incredibly well, particularly if you're driving your own news flow in conjunction with it.
Gotcha. All right. Very good. Thank you so much, Warwick, for joining us. We'll have you back on the channel again. I know this is one of the stocks that we like to follow. It's going to be added to our mining stock tracker for those of us that are subscribers to our mining stock service as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll keep update as the news flow comes out. And again, thanks, Warwick, so much for coming on. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Robert. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. We appreciate it. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and hit that notification button so you get those notifications when new content comes out. If you like what we're doing here, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Those members of Patreon will get extra special content delivered to them as well.